Welcome to the School Employer Advisory Committee meeting. This meeting was established in the 90s to foster better communication between the County Office of Education and CalPERS. This meeting has been opened up to all school employers, and we're calling it our Education Days. We have a full packed agenda, so we are going to go through it. I'm going to make my part smaller, shorter. I like to, we have a pre-retirement survivor benefits employer webinar that's coming up on September 4th. In the chat field, in the chat box, we're going ahead and put the link to that if you want to register. This is for pre-retirement survivor benefits employer webinars. It's what you need to do if an employee passes away or becomes terminally ill, how to understand eligibility requirements and different benefits we offer for active members, what important information your employees need to know about beneficiary designations, and power of attorney. So this webinar on Wednesday, September 4th, 10 a.m. to 11:30 is just for school employers. You can use the link in the chat to register, or you can go to our CalPERS website and you can click on the employer tab at the home screen, scroll down, click on attend training or event. And then you'll see a list of these meetings. So with that said, let's go ahead. Next slide. Just a little housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. We are going to put the recording on our CalPERS website within usually about 5 days after the webinar. It takes a little bit of time to get cleaned up and posted. On our webpage, you can also find the meeting materials and the agenda. So we have posted the slides there for you, and we have the agenda. So since the agenda is quite packed, we're going to go ahead and get started. So Veronica, you're up.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Veronica Silva-Gil. I am the section leader in the member elections team in CalPERS. Today, I'm here to tell you a little bit about the reciprocal certification form and some resources that are available to you to complete this form. Next slide, please. So here's the items that I'd like to discuss today. So first, I'll briefly go over the form, what is it? Then what are your responsibilities? How to access this form that we want you to have your employees complete? Show you, a small picture of the form, and then, how to access it to ensure that you have the correct permission sets, and what are your resources available for online education or resources in my CalPERS webpage. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the form first. So this is the form that we are asking your employees to complete. This is a requirement that we implemented after January 1st of 2013. The form allows us to obtain information from your newly hired employee to make sure that they are enrolled in the correct level, right? So they either be enrolled in PEPRA or Classic. So the information that they provide to us, is crucial for us to enroll them in the correct enrollment level. And then also lets us know if they have membership in other retirement systems, which will also provide us with information for that enrollment level. This form is not used for the request reciprocity. We have a different form for that. So I do want to clarify, as that sometimes causes confusion. Next slide, please. So let's go a little bit over about responsibilities. So first of all, we want to make sure that you use the most recent form. So if you have, some forms sitting around the office, just that you have handy. Last December, we did updated the form. So make sure that you go to our website to obtain the newest form. And I'll show you how to obtain that shortly. Make sure that you provide this to any new enrolled member, and that you give them 10 business days to return it to you. So once you get it to back to you, make sure that it's completed, in its entirety. And then once you get it back from the member, then your responsibility will be to enter into my CalPERS. So I'll go over all of these items next. Next slide, please. So first of all, how do you access the form? So the latest version is going to be in our website. So first you go to the to our website, and then in the search box, next slide, please. You'll type this reciprocal self-certification form and click on the search button. Next slide. And then on the suggestions, it should show you, the self-certification form as the first link. So you just click on the link. And this is a link that you can save, for future use. As if we do make any updates in the future, the link will always remain the same. Next slide, please. And then this is an image of the form. Is the CalPERS 1187, also known as the reciprocal self-certification form. So it's composed of 3 sections. Next slide, please. On the top section, we ask about the member information, right? So their name, their birthday, their CalPERS ID, so that we can, locate them. Next slide. And then this is where we get all the detailed information about any reciprocal membership that they have. So, when did they become members? What is the reciprocal system name? So this is, the most important portion of the form. So make sure that it's completed in its entirety. Next slide. Then section number 3 is where they sign and certify. So we would ask that they provide their signature and their date. Next slide. So once you get that form back, you got to make sure that you have the proper access. So to access and be able to enter the information from the form, you need to have the business partner retirement enrollment permission set. So how do you know if you don't have it, how do you know who can give it to you? So your system access administrator can assist you with providing you with that access. Next slide, please. So if you don't have the access, then you would go into your profile in my CalPERS. Next slide, please. And then it will provide you with a list of all the people who are, have access in my CalPERS for your agency. And if you see on the middle column is listed as assistant administrator, they have a letter Y. So that means that they can provide you with the system, the permission set that you need to complete this form in my CalPERS if you don't already have the permission set. So see one of those employee members that they can assist you with this request. Next slide, please. So also last December, we created an online course for you. So it's on demand, it's available 24 hours a day. It gives you information on how to enter the information that you obtain through the form. And I will also provide you with some practice transactions. So, if you don't want to start right away, on a real form, they can use this course to help you with some practice. And it's available, 24 hours a day. Next slide, please. So to locate it, again, in your My CalPERS profile, you'll click Education. Next slide. And then click on Enroll in a class. Next slide, please. And then this is considered an online class, so you click on the Online tab. Next slide. And then if you know the name of the class, then you would enter it there under Search. Next slide. So you type the name of the class, that, and then you click on Start to enroll in the class. Then it gives you the hyperlinks to launch the class. So that's available to you any time of the day. Okay. Next slide, please. Another resource that we have for you is, the link. So this is the link for the self-certification form. So when you get the slide deck, you will have the link to it. So you can bookmark this. The next slide. If you're new to my CalPERS and you need some help, navigating through the screens, this is also a good link for you to have about using my CalPERS. So we'll start, with the basics that you might need just to navigate my CalPERS system. So that's another resource that I strongly recommend, especially if you're new. Next slide, please. And then lastly, we have created the Public Agency and School Reference Guide. So this document will provide you with all the information that you need about the form. And it's also, the link is in the chat, but it will also be on the slide deck. So now if you have additional questions that perhaps we haven't covered or the course doesn't cover, we recommend that you contact our CalPERS Center that will be able to answer questions related to the reciprocal self-certification form and help you walk you through the to enter into my CalPERS. Now I will refer you. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature to ask your questions and we will answer them. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you for attending today, and I will hand it on to Natalie Spencer.
Thank you, Veronica. Morning, Natalie.
Morning. Hi, I'm Natalie Spencer. I am the team leader of the membership review team in EAMD, and I am going to just cover some of the resources we have for employment certification. Next slide, please. We might ask, when is an employment certification required? It's required whenever there's a service credit purchase request, which can be initiated by the member through their My CalPERS account. The member submitting a paper request to their employer for upload and certification. The membership reviews initiated by a CalPERS team member, an employer, or a member themselves. Next slide. So some of the resources that are available to you on the My CalPERS website is the Public Agency and Schools Reference Guide. This gives you step-by-step guidelines of how to complete the certification form. Another resource is the My CalPERS Employment Certification Functionality Student Guide. This is a PDF. It also goes through step-by-step with screenshots that show you where you should be entering in the information for the for the certification. And lastly, there is also a video that is available to you that walks you through the steps and shows you each step along the way and explains what is required in the certification. If these three resources still don't answer your questions, you can always reach out to the membership review team through the email membership_reporting@calpers.ca.gov. And one of the analysts will be more than happy to assist you in walking you through filling out and completing the certification form. If you have any questions, go ahead and use the QA. They will answer any questions that you may have in there regarding the employment certification. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Next, we have Liza with the annual information request. Liza.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liza Lopez. I am the team leader for the State Social Security Administrator Program. Today, I will be presenting on the annual information request, also known as the AIR. Next slide. In today's presentation, I will cover the role of the State Social Security Administrator, how to request access to My CalPERS system, what the AIR is, and where to locate it online. In previous years, the AIR was a hard copy form. In July 2018, it was converted to an online format within the My CalPERS system, which expedited the submittal process. Next slide. CalPERS was assigned the role of the State Social Security Administrator, also known as SSA, by the governor in 1955. SSA acts separately from CalPERS and is not specific to CalPERS business partners or contracting employers. We provide Social Security and Medicare contract assistance at the employer level to every public agency, school, and state agency in California. So what does the Social Security Administrator do? Next slide. We process Social Security contract amendments for public entities to provide coverage for their employees. We also administer provisions of Section 218 agreement. We maintain Section 218 related records dating back to 1951 These original contracts are protected by waterproof, floodproof, and fireproof cabinets. We supervise the election process for Section 218 agreements. We are the liaison between SSA, IRS, employers, and stakeholders. We also perform education and outreach. Next slide. Accessing My CalPERS. If you do not do business with CalPERS and don't have a My CalPERS account, the state administrator team can assist you with setting one up and gaining the appropriate access. Next slide. To gain new access to My CalPERS, you will need to contact our team. We will advise you on the process and add you or a designated contact to the My CalPERS system as your agency Social Security Administrator contact. Adding the contact designates a specific person to receive communication from the state administrator. The communication preference can be set to mail or email. Our dedicated state administrator team will email you a link to a student guide, which can also be found on the state administrator webpage. The student guide includes step-by-step instructions and screenshots to help you complete the AIR form. If your agency already does business using My CalPERS, a member of the state administrator team can add the business partner Social Security access role for you. Your agency also has a designated system access administrator who plays a crucial role in managing access privileges for all users within your organization. They are your main point of contact for My CalPERS access and can provide you with the business partner Social Security access role. Next slide. The business partner Social Security access role allows the user to utilize My CalPERS to conduct Social Security business between your agency and the state administrator, including accessing Social Security documents and the AIR form. Next slide. Navigating My CalPERS. Let's begin with the login process. Next slide. First, navigate to My CalPERS website at www.calpers.ca.gov. The My CalPERS login is located near the top right corner of the screen on the home page. Selecting that button will take you to the pre-login screen. Next slide. There are two options on the pre-login screen. If you already have an account, log in with your username and password. If you do not have an account, you will need to register for an account. Next slide. This image is the home page. Across the top, there are 6 global navigation tabs: the home, profile, reporting, and so on. Based on the business relationships with CalPERS, you may have other tabs as well. Notice that the home page tab is highlighted gray, which indicates the tab you are on. In the center of the page, you will find information that's specifically relevant to you, along with a couple of panels containing activities underway or completed. Near the bottom center of your screen is a panel called My Messages. If you contract with CalPERS for retirement or health, this panel will have important information for you to check daily, ensuring you stay informed and connected. From here, select the Profile Global Navigation tab on the top row. Next slide. This takes us to our agency profile page. Under the Global Navigation tab, there are several links: summary, payment, receivables, and so on. These links allow you to access specific business processes relating to your agency. Once again, based on the business relationship with CalPERS, you may have other links as well. Next slide. Now that you have a basic understanding of the My CalPERS system, let's take a closer look at the annual information requests, or once again, AIR for short. Next slide. Each year, the state administrator is required to contact each governmental agency through the AIR. This annual process enables us to maintain current information for each employer and to assist employers in remaining in compliance with Social Security and Medicare withholdings laws. Next slide. As of July 2018, the AIR is now completed online using the CalPERS. The County Offices of Education, also known as COE, AIR is issued to employers alphabetically by county. If you are new to CalPERS system, you will need to contact our team to establish your account details and set up access to the AIR. Please complete the AIR within 30 days of the date the AIR was issued to your agency. You may receive follow-up emails or telephone calls to clarify one or more of your responses. Next slide. Locating the AIR is the same for everyone, regardless whether you are with a COE, school district, public agency. If we look at the profile page, along the left side is a sub-navigation menu. The last item on the menu is labeled SSA Annual Information Request. If you don't see this link, it means you don't have the correct access role. You would need to contact our team or your system administrator, access administrator, to establish access. Select the SSA Annual Information Request link to continue. Next slide. You will see an SSA 218 Annual Information Request panel with a hyperlink date. If you do not see the hyperlink with the current year, that means we have not issued the AIR for your agency at this time. The AIR link will be displayed in date format. By clicking on the hyperlink date, you can review previous AIRs completed for your agency. To review and complete the current AIR for your agency, select the hyperlink date for the current fiscal year. Next slide. Here is a list of resources to assist you. I encourage you to explore these links to learn more about the resources available, including the Social Security Administration Government Site Development for government agencies and very useful self-compliance toolkits located on the IRS website for federal, state, and local governments. As the state Social Security Administrator, we also have a dedicated webpage located on the CalPERS website. You can find many helpful links and more information about what we do. We also offer webinars throughout the year. Next slide. You can reach the state administrator team by email, phone, or mail. We are available to assist you. Next slide. In December, we will present on completing the AIR, providing in-depth, step-by-step details for COEs, school districts, and public agencies on how to view your Social Security and Medicare agreement details and how to complete the AIR online. To register for an upcoming course, please visit our webpage. Next slide. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature and we will be able to answer your questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Liza. So we have been putting all the links that the presenters have been mentioning into the chat field. I'm going to also email that out to everybody so that you have that. So I'll probably be doing that towards the end of the day. You should receive that email. And then we are also, all the questions and answers that are being written in the Q&A, we will also email that out to everybody within a few days. If you have a question, please use the Q&A feature. We're not going to take live questions until the end at the roundtable. Okay, next we have Cognos reports being presented by Khang.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Khang, and I am an analyst with CalPERS System Support. Today, I'm going to share some information with you regarding our Cognos reports and provide you with some tools and resources that you can leverage in your work. Those tools and resources encompasses the Cognos reports catalog and Cognos application, which is where you can query your agency's data. So if you have any questions along the way, please do put it in the Q&A and we will try our best to answer any questions you may have. Next slide. One of the resources that I would like to share with you today is our Cognos Reports catalog. This wonderful resource is located on our CalPERS website. You can locate it by going to the CalPERS tab, clicking on My CalPERS Technical Requirements. Next slide, please. Then by clicking on My CalPERS Employer Reports Cognos Catalog. Next slide, please. So this is what the catalog will look like. I highly encourage you to review the Cognos catalog before going in to run your Cognos reports, which I will show you how to navigate to in just a moment. The Cognos catalog is a great resource because it provides you with a list of reports that you can run. It provides you with a description of the report type, and most importantly, what system access roles are needed in order to access the report. And if you notice, there are search boxes at the top of each column. These will allow for you to search for certain reports using keywords, which can really help with locating specific reports. Something else I want to mention is that if you look at the user role in the last column, it lists all the system access roles that can generate and/or interact with that particular report. So for the roles listed here, you would only need to be assigned one of these access roles in order to generate that report. So you do not need to have all these access roles. Something else I want to mention about the catalog is that if you click on the hyperlink in the description, it will provide you with a sample of the report, which gives you a chance to look through the headings to see if the report will meet your requirements before you actually go in to run your report. And just one more thing before we go on to navigate to the Cognos report, we do recommend that you ensure that your web browser security settings are optimized before you run your report. Next slide, please. Now, if you have in mind what report you want to run, we can now go and run your Cognos report. And to utilize the Cognos application, it is located in My CalPERS. And just a quick reminder, the Cognos application is what allows you to query your agency's data and generate reports in multiple formats. So to get there in My CalPERS under the Home tab, if you click on the Common Task drop-down menu, you will see Reports. If you click on Reports, the Cognos application will pop up for you. Next slide, please. This is the landing page for the Cognos application and where you can generate your reports. You can click on the magnifying glass to search for the report you want to run. If you run a report quite often, it will show up on the home screen each time you enter this page. However, sometimes when you clear your history, cache and cookies, or when you update your browser, those reports that you will often see on this page may no longer show up on your screen. So you have to search for it again. Moving forward, I want to tell you about a few reports that you may find helpful and be able to leverage with your work. Next slide, please. The first one is the certificated members with less than a full year of service credit report. This report helps to identify certificated school members who did not receive a full year of service credit in a specific fiscal year. This report is quite beneficial to employers because failure to provide CalPERS with accurate and timely payroll reporting of compensation may result in retirement benefits being delayed or retirement benefits being inaccurately determined, which can then result in a benefit overpayment or underpayment. It can also result in loss of health coverage. So this report would be quite helpful in helping to track which members might be missing service credit. Next slide, please. This is a sample of what the report would look like. Spotlighted here is the column for total service credit earned in the fiscal year, which displays the total service credit for each participant. Remember, if you would like to see a sample of the report to check out what it has to offer before actually running the report, the Cognos report catalog will often provide report samples. Next slide, please. Another report that you may find helpful is the out-of-class employer detail report. Once a year at the end of June, employers are notified to report out-of-class hours to CalPERS for the past fiscal year. So this report is great for enabling you to view out-of-class records reported to CalPERS. Next slide, please. Here's a sample of what will be reflected on the report. If you will note the headings, this report provides more than just out-of-class hours participants work. So for most of the reports that you are able to run in the Cognos application, the report that you retrieve may include other relative data that you may want to take note of for future reference should you need the information at a later date. Next slide, please. Another report you may find beneficial is the Reported Compensation by Calendar Year Summary Detail Report. This report is intended to give employers member earnings information across all CalPERS covered employment per calendar year. Next slide, please. When you first run the report, the summary report will generate for you. This is a drill down report, so if you click on the hyperlink participant CID, a more detailed report will pop up for you. And this is only available for certain reports. Currently, the report only generates for members at the employer. However, this upcoming fall, please do keep an eye out for it. Around mid-October, an enhancement will be made to this report so that employers will have the ability to search for a specific member CID. Next slide, please. This is a sample of what the detailed report will entail. I would also like to mention that there will be an upcoming change to this report also. Currently, the total calendar year compensation field is only found on the summary report. In mid-October, a new enhancement will be made to this report. So we will be adding the total calendar year compensation field to the header of this report also to allow for easier viewing of individual participation compensation. Next slide, please. And this report is the Arrears Receivable Summary Report. This would be one of the last ones that I share with you today. This report displays a summary of individual member receivables. Next slide, please. Like the previous report, you can access a more detailed report by clicking on the hyperlinks in the summary report page. The Arrears Receivable Report is a great resource and tool when trying to query member receivables because failure to enroll an employee into membership when they become eligible can incur financial consequences for employers. So as I mentioned before, this will be the last resource that I share with you today. We have many, many more Cognos reports and resources that are just at your fingertips. So I highly encourage you to review the Cognos catalog to see what we have to offer you that might best fit your needs. Next slide, please. And this concludes my presentation on Cognos reports. I hope you found a few takeaways. Remember, if you have any questions, please do leave us a message in the Q&A. We have wonderful analysts online that can help answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mai. Okay. Heather, post-retirement employment requirements. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me today. My name is Heather Porter. I am the Assistant Division Chief at CalPERS over the Membership Services section, including post-retirement employment determinations. I've been asked to join today to discuss post-retirement employment for CalPERS retirees. Next slide, please. I will be discussing options for retiree employment without reinstatement, as well as the restrictions of this type of retired annuitant employment, the consequences of breaking the laws of this type of employment, and being found to be in violation of those laws or out of compliance with those laws. Lastly, I will go over some information that is available to employers to assist with ensuring compliance when hiring retirees. Next slide. So there are several types of employment that retirees may be hired for interim or vacant positions. When a public agency is actively recruiting to fill a position, we usually see these in the higher level positions such as chief of police, city manager, etc. This falls under Government Code 21221G and H. The retiree must be appointed into these positions by the governing body and require a resolution with an end date. This may be until filled for 21221H. However, for 21221G, there's a limit of 1 year. Now, it is important to note this government code does not apply to state or school employers as they are statutorily contracted with CalPERS. It is only for contracting agencies. All the other restrictions do apply, and I'll go into those a little bit deeper in a moment. Then there are extra help under Government Code 21224 and 21229, which is the school's government code. This is the position that we focus most on being of limited duration. As you all may be aware, we were looking to define what limited duration meant through regulations. However, those have ceased to commence. We still have court rulings that have stated clearly that work of limited duration is not in lengths of, let's say, 5-6 years or greater. So we do look at the nature of the work, the position title and designation, and that helps us to determine what is work of limited duration. It should be in a position specific to a retired annuitant. Retirees should not be used to fill permanent positions, even if they are part-time or intermittent. They should be specific to the need to prevent the stoppage of business or assist with a backlog or special project. Again, all the restrictions apply, which I will get into in the next slide. I know this has been a really hot topic for the schools, so I'm going to clarify on the next slide how you can work around these restrictions appropriately. So additionally, a retiree may be hired to do work of an independent contractor. That must be work that is performed separate from the control of the agency. We will apply the common law control test to determine if a retiree is truly an independent contractor. If they are a true independent contractor, then they are not subject to the post-retirement rules. Next slide, please. So here's another overview of the requirements of the two main types of RAs we see and allow. Schools, again, are statutorily contracted. The law does not permit schools to utilize RAs in these higher level unique positions falling under 21221H. If you have a vacancy in one of these positions, you can temporarily assign a non-retired person in that role. And if needed for assistance because an RA has special skills, bring in an RA in an extra help position to assist. Let's say the business operations director. RAs should not be in a role of supervision over other employees, such as these roles would require. There are school advocates currently working on efforts to propose legislative change to this government code that would allow schools the use of this government code. Until we know the outcome of these efforts, we have postponed releasing a circular letter regarding this matter. Extra help positions. Please note that this law is specific, again, to limited duration, not an ongoing employer relationship. 960-hour rule is not the only rule to follow to ensure you're using RAs compliantly. There should also be adequate proof that this is an RA-specific extra help position of limited duration. Some things we may ask for if we are reviewing an RA in an extra help position would be, is the RA, if, for instance, they are in a substitute role, that there have been efforts to fill these with non-retired employees. RAs as substitutes should not be the go-to practice for filling these needs of your districts. They should be utilized as needed due to not being able to either recruit non-retired employees into these positions or perhaps an uptick of work that's temporary in nature. We have a drafted circular letter providing this direction. However, it is still in the review and approval phase. We do hope to get this out to the schools soon. Next slide, please. So let's dive into the restriction or post-retirement employment. The bona fide separation in service is required of CalPERS by the Internal Revenue Code tax regulations to maintain our federal tax qualified status. The only allowance for exception is a governor's declaration of emergency, and that can only waive the 60-day waiting period established by CalPERS regulations. This is something to pay attention to prior to entering into discussions with an employee about returning for post-retirement work prior to them retiring. With PEPRA, people have had multiple formulas nowadays. They've moved around. We have had some of these come up and cause violations. So it is very important to note that if someone is under any of their normal retirement ages for any of the formulas, there should not be any plans or discussions with the employee about returning to work post-retirement before they retire. Again, this is an IRS law and we cannot waver on this rule. Next slide, please. Another break in service established by the Public Employees Retirement Law is the 180-day break. As you can see on the slide, there are some exceptions for safety officers or if the agency files a 180-day resolution waiver passed by the governing body. And we have examples of these resolutions in our reference guide available online. These are supposed to be and must be received and reviewed by CalPERS before employing the retiree. Again, this is something to consider because if you're looking at someone who hasn't met normal retirement age, going into a resolution prior to them retiring is looking like an agreement to return to work. So again, pay very close attention to that normal retirement age before looking at returning to work with a retiree. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm a little parched. Other restrictions are that a retired annuitant cannot work more than 960 hours in a fiscal year. This includes all their post-retirement employment with all CalPERS contracting agencies. This is important for you and the retiree to keep track of their hours to avoid violation. You can see the hours the retiree has worked in My CalPERS, and the retiree can see it in their member self-service account. An exception to this limit is when the governor issues an executive order. The current orders currently include some wildfires and atmospheric river. The pay rates also can be no higher than the current salary schedule of the position most closely related to the duties the retiree is performing. And they cannot get additional benefits like sick leave or special compensations. Next slide, please. So if a retiree is found in violation of these laws and restrictions, the consequences can be either full reinstatement back to the first day of the violation, retirement benefit payments stop, and an overpayment may be owed. It will also impact cost of living adjustments and potentially health benefits. When the member is reinstated, the employer is required to report payroll and contributions, so the employer and member would owe contributions for that service. A few years ago, we were able to make a change to the law to allow for a remedy option. These remedies are based on the period of violation only. For example, if a retiree is found in violation of going over the 960 hours, we can have them repay the benefit they received while in violation. If they go over in April of that fiscal year, they would repay the months they were in violation, April, May, June. They can opt to pay this in an actuarial equivalent reduction, or what we call an AER. This reduces their retirement benefit for life. The positive of this option is it reduces the impacts to the retiree. They can keep their original retirement date, so none of the reinstatement impacts that I listed above would apply. Next slide, please. So we're constantly looking for ways to update our system to ensure the information needed by our employers to maintain compliance is available. When performing a person search in My CalPERS, if a member is a retiree, it will reflect the 180-day wait period for the retiree. For external business partners, such as your specialists to view, during the hiring process of an IRA, you can search the retiree in My CalPERS, and the system will display their retirement date and the date they were first eligible to work without a 180-day waiver resolution. The system also displays the member's max normal retirement age that must be reached for the bona fide separation requirements. This is helpful as your specialist may not be aware of all the retirees' previous retirement formulas and alleviates the chance of thinking they have reached it based on knowledge of only some of their past employment and membership history. So we're all in this together to avoid retirees being found in violation. The largest impacts of violation impact the retirees, so we also highly advise they advocate for themselves as well. They can sign into their own member self-service account to see their normal retirement age, total hours worked in a fiscal year, and the date they can return to work after retirement, that 180-day wait period. We also provide much of this information in various correspondence we have sent to you and the retiree at the time of hire. We also send letters when retirees are approaching their hour limits to help avoid violations of post-retirement employment laws. Next slide, please. So I wanted to leave providing some contact information for you to reach us if you have questions when hiring a retiree as a retired annuitant, or if you are concerned about a contract you are working into with an independent contractor and want to ensure it is true work of an IC. I do believe there was a request to send these emails in email, or all these email addresses in an email. So I'm sure Bill's going to get on to that as well. So next slide, please. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will address them. Thank you so much. And I will turn it back over to Bill.
All right, thank you, Heather. And yes, we will be emailing all the email addresses and links that are in the chat. We're going to email that to everybody. Vina sent me a note saying, can we just put that on one page? I think that's a great idea, and we'll go ahead and do that for you guys. So we'll get that out as soon as we can. All right, it's time to take a break. So let's 15 minutes. Okay, how about everybody come back at 10:30? Sound good? All right, thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. I was going through Mike King's Cognos presentation, and I noticed that we have a Cognos report called Participant Undeliverable Address Report. That might be a good one to start with. If you haven't used Cognos, give you a listing of all of your employees that have bad addresses with CalPERS on the system, and maybe we can get those updated. All right. So next we have Truc with age audit process. Truc.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Truc Nguyen. I'm in the Employer Accounts Management Division, and I'm here to go over the age audit process along with the resources available to you. Next slide, please. Before we go into the age audit process, I want to explain that employers who contract for CalPERS retirement benefits must report payroll earnings to CalPERS that are in compliance with the Public Employees Retirement Law and have memorandum of understandings to support their reporting process. Here at CalPERS, we also have the Office of Audit Services who conducts audits and generates what we call an employer compliance review, and that outlines specific non-compliant findings within the scope of the audit. Next slide, please. As with any audit, the Employer Compliance Review, also known as the ECR, ensures that contracting employers are compliant with applicable sections of the Government Code and California Code of Regulations. Next slide, please. So here at CalPERS, in the Employer Account Management Division, we have the Audit Compliance and Resolution Unit, or Resolution Team, also known as ACR. Our objective is to serve as your liaison between the Office of Audit Services and ensuring compliance with the Public Employees Retirement Law, ensuring that you're maintaining our CalPERS mission and fiduciary responsibilities under the oversight of the CalPERS Board of Administration, Risk Audit Committee, and Integrated Assurance Risk Council. Next slide, please. After you've been audited, or what we call receiving your employer compliance review, the Audit Compliance and Resolution Team will work with you to ensure resolution. Here's a glimpse of a timeline from month 1 through month 12, and I'll go over the details of each. Next slide, please. So the CalPERS Board of Administration established a 12-month resolution policy for audits, and we are also budgeted for a 12-month resolution. During the 12 months, the Audit Compliance and Resolution Unit team will be responsible for ensuring the resolution is met or escalate as necessary if it becomes an aged audit process, aged audit. So here in month 1, this is where we send out an initial contact email or letter providing our specific liaison information, such as our team contact information, and then we'll schedule a conference call to go over the employer compliance review. From month 2 to month 10, we will work with you to establish an audit resolution plan in which the employer is responsible for providing an action plan with realistic milestones, committing to the action plan, and processing any necessary payroll corrections to ensure that you're in compliance. Next slide, please. In month 11, if the audit or the employer compliance review is not resolved, we will send out what we call a 30-day notice of action. In this letter, it provides the information and possible administrative actions if the employer compliance review is not resolved by month 12. And in month 12, if the compliance review is not resolved, it becomes what we call an aged audit, and it will be escalated to our CalPERS board, our Risk Audit Committee, and our Integrated Assurance Risk Council. Next slide, please. This includes enforcing administrative hold on members' accounts, which may result in loss of benefits or delay in members' retirement due to CalPERS having to do an additional review for non-compliant reporting. In addition, we will send a notice to all impacted members, alerting them of the employer's non-compliance. And if they continue non-compliance, we will possibly enforce reoccurring administrative fees for the delinquent resolution until compliance is obtained. So FYI, this may result in a $200 per delinquent payroll reporting. Next slide, please. So as stated earlier, after 12 months, this, if the employer compliance resolution is not resolved, it becomes an aged audit. So when audits are not resolved and it's over 12 months, it becomes a significant financial, contractual, and operational risk for the employer and its members. And it's also a significant liability to CalPERS' business partners, the employees, and the Public Employees Retirement Fund. Next slide, please. When it becomes an aged audit and when it is escalated, there's a possibility that we recommend for revocation of the employer's contract or pursue all available remedies to enforce the Public Employees Retirement Law. But please note that any time during the audit resolution process, as mentioned in the timeline above, if the employer is unresponsive, we may enforce any, if not all, the items mentioned above, such as escalating to our board for further action. Next slide, please. So how do you avoid the age audit process and the administrative actions? Well, first, communicate to us throughout the process. You always have that open communication channel. Establish realistic goals and follow through with your audit resolution action plan, and ensure that your labor agreements or MOUs and your compensation complies with the Public Employees Retirement Law. And to avoid being audited at all, it's best, we recommend to, be proactive, ensure what you're reporting is in compliance. And next slide, please. And you can work with our team. We have a dedicated team to ensure compliance, work with you. We are your liaison throughout the audit. So we have many resources, such as our CalPERS webpage. Here we also have the Public Employees Retirement Law. It's a full law book on there, and our dedicated compliance in compensation reporting webpage. This is here. We have circular letters on here, sample language, other resources such as a special compensation reportability table, here to all assist you with everything to be in compliance. And if you need to reach us by email, or you have draft language, draft MOU language that you need us to review, you can definitely email us at MOU_review@calpers.ca.gov. Next slide, please. And that concludes the age audit process and my presentation. If you have additional questions, please refer to the Q&A feature. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you very much, Truc. Next, we have Ken on full-time equivalent pay rate calculator. Go, Ken.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our education day. This is actually great timing, almost like we planned it. Truc did the aged audit presentation, and then I'm going to go into full-time equivalent pay rate calculator, or our full-time equivalent pay rates. As most of you know, we had a 2018 audit that did go to Truc's team, and that was for an overall pay schedule audit for state public agencies and schools. That led into a 2020 school pay rate audit that we're still working on some of the resolutions for. And really what it concentrated on was full-time equivalent pay rates. Next slide, please. All right, so what is a full-time equivalent pay rate? It's actually defined in the Public Employees Retirement Law, both as government code and regulation. So prior to 2000, you had government code 20636, and it defined what pay rate and special compensation is. And also keep in mind, it's 2000, it's before PEPRA, so this is for classic members. What we noticed was happening was different schools had different interpretations of full-time. And Government Code 20636 stated that a pay rate needed to be reported for full-time, for services rendered on a full-time basis. And so you'd have two different positions that were being reported differently, despite the fact that if you broke it down to its true hourly rate, those two positions were being paid the same hourly rate. But the full-time pay rate being reported to CalPERS was different. So in 2000, Government Code 20636.1 was enacted. Specifically, 20636.1b specifies that for classified school members, full-time employment is 40 hours per week. In 2019, we actually had California Code of Regulations, CCR 574, enacted. It defines full-time for public agency and school employers, but specifically 574C, again, re-emphasizes that full-time is 40 hours per week for classified school members. Next slide, please. So what does 40 hours mean? So a full-time pay rate has to be reported to CalPERS for classified school positions, and full-time is 40 hours per week. So that means it's 8 hours a day. So 40 divided by 5 work days is 8 hours per day, and it's 2,080 hours per year. That's 40 hours per week times 52 weeks in a year equals 2,080 hours. It's very important to keep this 2,080 hours in the back of your mind while we go through this presentation, and it's going to make sense soon. Next slide, please. So why do FTE pay rates matter? So I talked previously about prior to 2000, you would have people in the same position and they'd have different pay rates being reported for those positions based on the definition that the school had of full-time. Was it 32 hours, 35 hours, 37 hours? And when that happened, you would have inaccurate pay rates being reported, which resulted in inaccurate service credit accrual, because your earnings divided by your pay rate is how you accrue service credit. And then you'd have inaccurate final compensation, because your pay rate is actually what you use to calculate your final compensation. So if your final compensation's wrong and your service credit's wrong, well, that leads to miscalculated retirement benefits. And then the last thing is an unfunded liability and risk to the public employees retirement fund. I do want to clarify this. Yes, it is an unfunded liability and risk to the PERF. However, there's only one way that CalPERS really makes that money up, and that's by adjusting employer contribution rates. So that does directly impact our employers. If we're getting compensation that's out of compliance reported to CalPERS, it can increase your unfunded liability and can have an impact on the employer contribution rate to the employers. Next slide, please. So I want to go into how to calculate a full-time equivalent pay rate, an FTE pay rate, and we're going to use an example employee. So this is a pretty common example. Employee works 215 work days per year. They work 7.5 hours in a work day. They work 10 months per year, and they have a $50,000 annual base salary. Next slide, please. So how do we calculate the hourly, daily, and monthly FTE pay rate? Now you're going to notice some consistency here because it looks a little confusing when all the numbers are jumbled together, but I'll point out the consistency as we move through this. So you have $50,000 a year in annual earnings. You divide that by the 215 days, and then you divide that by 7.5 hours per day. That gives you $31.01 per hour. So this is how you break down the hourly rate. So now how do you do the daily pay rate? Well, if you notice the first part of this calculation, 50,000 divided by 215 divided by 7.5. What does that give you? Gives you the hourly pay rate. And we've already talked about how full-time equivalent per day is 8 hours per day. So you take that hourly rate, you multiply it by 8, you get the daily full-time equivalent pay rate of $248.06. And then for the monthly full-time equivalent pay rate, again, the hourly rate, so it's the 50,000 divided by 215 divided by 7.5, multiplied by the 2,080. And if you remember, I said, keep that in the back of your mind because that's your annual full-time hours. 40 hours per week times 52 weeks, 2,080 hours. So you take that, you divide it by 12, there's 12 months in a year, and you have $5,374.68 for your monthly full-time equivalent pay rate. Now at CalPERS, we're always looking to provide more resources for all of our employers. And we know that this has been a hot topic with our school employers. So we're always looking for different ways to make this easier for all of you, which leads me into the next slide, please. So we've been working on an amendment to California Code of Regulations 574. Now, as I stated earlier in the presentation, CCR 574 defines full-time employment for our agencies and then our school employers. The current text for CCR 574 is listed here, and it basically just goes over, again, full-time employment means 40 hours per week. Payment for services rendered not to exceed 40 hours per week shall be reported as compensation earnable or pensionable compensation. Compensation earnable is the definition of compensation reportable to CalPERS for Classic members. Pensionable compensation is the definition of compensation reportable to CalPERS for PEPRA members. So again, covering both bases. But as we were looking at this CCR, we felt like we could actually add more information. So not just resources that we're providing and education that we're providing, but actually putting something in the Public Employees Retirement Law that would provide additional clarification for our school employers as far as, you know, what full-time equivalent really means. Next slide, please. So this is what we have put forward. We got CalPERS board approval. This was opened up for public comment. We received and replied to the public comments, and we got final CalPERS board approval. So this amendment to CCR 574 is moving forward. The amendment is really specific to CCR 574C as it applies to classified school members. So the amendment goes to, for purposes of reporting classified school members' full-time pay rate, again, it goes into the classified members' hourly, daily, or monthly full-time equivalent pay rate. And then it goes a step further and says the pay rate shall be calculated to the nearest cent and shall be determined as set forth below. And the first one, right off the bat, you go into the hourly FTE. And this description gives you the verbal description of exactly how to do this calculation based on the example that I showed you previously. So again, annual base salary divided by the number of work days per year, then dividing the result by the number of hours in a work day. Next slide, please. So the amendment then goes on, and in B and C, it goes and it actually states, this is how you calculate the daily full-time equivalent. This is how you calculate the monthly full-time equivalent. So now all of our school employers will actually have this in the Public Employees Retirement Law. It can be referenced. The regulation clarifies Government Code 7522.34 for PEPRA members and Government Code 20636.1 for Classic members. And it provides the exact calculation details in law for how these full-time equivalent pay rates are calculated. And hopefully this goes a long way in avoiding future confusion. Next slide, please. We have additional resources for our school employers. Just this year, we released Circular Letter 200-01424. It's full-time equivalent pay rate circular letter. I'm sure most of you guys have already seen it. It provides clarification on full-time equivalent pay rates, how to calculate them, a lot of what we went over in this presentation. And it also provides quick links to some of our other resources that I'll get into momentarily. Again, we're doing the amendment to CCR 574. And then we have our compliance and compensation reporting webpage, which just last year we added our full-time equivalent calculator. Next page, please. So just quickly, if you go to calpers.ca.gov, that is our website. And in the search bar in the top of the website, you just type in compliance and hit search. Your first option that comes up is going to be your compliance and compensation reporting webpage. Click on that and then scroll to the middle of the page and you'll see an option for calculate full-time equivalent FTE pay rate for classified school members. Next slide, please. Once you click on that, it actually gives a lot of great information, kind of expanding on what we've gone over during this presentation. And then at the bottom, it says FTE pay rate calculator, classified school members. Click that button. Next slide, please. Once you click that button, you'll have a terms of conditions. So just click yes on that and then get to this part. So I've shown you how to do the calculation. I know all of you can do it yourself, but here's the thing, you don't have to. We're providing this resource for you. All you need are the monthly earnings, the hours worked per day, the months worked per year, and the days worked per year. You enter that information in, and press the calculate button at the bottom of the screen. Next page, please. And the next screen will give you the full-time equivalent pay rate for monthly, daily, hourly, just depending on how you want to report it to us. And you could also line that up with what you're doing with your publicly available pay schedule. So we're providing the resources both, through regulation and through our website, our calculator, and then we have a team to help you guys as well. So next slide, please. Which leads me into our additional resources. Again, we have our CalPERS website, calpers.ca.gov. And on that website, we have a PDF version of the Public Employees Retirement Law. I recommend everybody download that, have it on your desktop. We have a new version of it every single year, and it's at the same hyperlink. So go and download it every year. We also have our Public Agency and Schools Reference Guide on our website. We have circular letters. Again, I referenced the new circular letter that came out this year for full-time equivalent pay rates, but we have a ton of other circular letters related to compensation compliance. And then we have our compliance and compensation reporting webpage. And on that webpage, we actually have a link that takes you to our compensation circular letters, which can help you too. I recommend everybody bookmark this compensation and the compliance and compensation reporting webpage. Again, we've got the FTE calculator, but we've also got a special compensation or pensionable compensation reportability table. We've got publicly available pay schedule resources. We've got publicly available pay schedule examples. We have additional information on common compensation reporting issues and errors. Bookmark this. Almost all your compensation compliance needs can be met on this website. And then, of course, we have So Truc spoke previously. I have another manager, Serena Southards, who manages the Audit Compliance and Resolution Unit 1. They're really our pre-audit and compensation review, pre-retirement unit. They want to help you guys get in compliance before any of your members go to retire, before you get audited. It's MOU_review at calpers.ca.gov. It's a great resource to have. And Truc talked about the audit resolution process and the aged audit resolution process in particular. Please help yourself avoid any type of negative audit findings in the future, especially when it comes to school pay rates. Again, we have all of these resources available. Make sure your publicly available pay schedules are in compliance. Make sure your pay rates being reported to CalPERS are in compliance. Use MOU_review at calpers.ca.gov for any questions. Use the full-time equivalent calculator. Use all the resources on our webpage and that we have available for you. And you can just avoid any type of aged audit process in the future by not having audit findings in the first place. Next page, please. All right, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A. And thank you all very much for your time. Have a great day.
All right, thank you, Ken. And good justification for the calculator. My eyes started glossing over when you started mentioning the 1280 hours. Next up, we have timely payroll reporting. Brittny and Jess. Oh, my, okay. Just giving them a minute to unmute your microphone and turn on your camera.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, thank you. Hi.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I am Brittny Greer. I am the payroll manager over Public Agencies and Schools payroll team. With me today is Khang, who is from our system support team, and we will be discussing payroll reporting or timely payroll reporting. Next slide, please. Our agenda for today, we will talk about earned period reports, payroll adjustments, zero payroll and confirmation of no payroll, and resources that will help assist if needed. We understand there are a lot of districts in our meeting today and don't always report payroll directly to CalPERS, but it is important that County of Office of Education and districts work together to make sure payroll is submitted timely to CalPERS. Next slide, please. First, we're going to discuss earned period reports. What is an earned period report? An earned period report is the normal payroll report submitted by the employers for each earned period associated to an employer's payroll schedule. It is essential to report timely and accurately to ensure members' retirement application, service credit purchases, or refunds are processed timely. Members' service and contributions are accurately reported, and the most up-to-date service and contribution information is included on annual member statements. It is essential to the earned period reports are accurate, as our members can review their account through My CalPERS at any time. Next slide, please. An earned period report is not considered complete until the report is in a posted status and all active appointments, including active retired annuitant appointments, are reported for. If there is no payroll to report for a participant in an earned period, you will want to make sure to report 0 payroll for the earned period or confirm no payroll to report through the retirement appointment reconciliation process, which we will discuss later in the presentation. You will want to ensure your agency is in compliance with the California Code of Regulations, CCR Article 4, 565, and 565.1, which is displayed in the chart. Payment of contributions shall be received in the system on or before 15 calendar days following the last day of the earned period. Payroll and contribution information for each earned period shall be submitted on or before 30 calendar days following the last day of the earned period. If received after 31 days, a $200 late payroll reporting admin fee will apply. Your agency will need to resolve the payroll to remove the projected contributions, but the $200 admin fee will remain. You have 60 calendar days from the date My CalPERS gives an error message on a payroll record to correct and post a suspended payroll file. Any unposted payroll records or errors not corrected after 60 calendar days will result in a $200 late payroll correction fee and will continue to apply every 30 days until the report is in posted status. For retired annuitants, if you do not report within the earned period report due date, each retired annuitant will have a $200 retired annuitant late fee assessment per month until information is posted. Next slide, please. Let's move on to payroll adjustments. Adjustment reports are submitted in between earned period reports. Employers can submit adjustment reports to make corrections to a previously posted earned period record. For schools, there are currently over 1,200 unposted adjustment reports. Although there are no fees associated or fees applied toward adjustment reports, Government Code Section 20160 advises it is your duty to correct member account payroll data timely. We're asking today if you have any outstanding unposted reports to please review and resolve these as soon as possible. There are several impacts for not posting adjustment reports timely. Our internal CalPERS areas, such as our retirement benefits, refunds, pre and post survivor, and service credit purchase teams will reach out to the payroll team to make corrections so they can continue their process. This then leaves our payroll analysts to reach out to the employers until the corrections have been made into the CalPERS system. Another impact toward our members who are retired and rely on their benefits to be correct. Any negative impacts to their retirement could lead to an overpayment that they were not prepared for. In addition, our members' beneficiaries may be affected by the late adjustments posted to the member's account. If the beneficiaries are currently receiving the beneficiary amount and an adjustment was made, the beneficiaries were not prepared for this as well. Lastly, the member can review their account through their My CalPERS account. If the member sees any discrepancies, they will reach out to CalPERS in question as to why their account is not correct. CalPERS is unable to provide an update to the member until the employer applies these corrections into our system. This then leads our payroll analysts to reach out to the employer, and we will also refer the member to contact their employer until the corrections are completed. Next slide, please. Now we will cover zero payroll and confirmation of no payroll. As previously discussed, a full and complete earned period report includes payroll for all active member and all active retired annuitants. If there is no payroll to report for a member, there are two options to identify no payroll to be reported. Report a zero payroll record in a payroll report, or confirm unposted payroll through retirement appointment reconciliation. You may report a zero payroll record for both regular and retired annuitants, annuitant appointments when there is no compensation earned. A zero payroll record can be reported in either an earned period report or an adjustment report. To confirm unposted payroll, this can be done via the payroll schedule screens or the retirement appointment reconciliation page. If you do not have report payroll data, zero payroll, or confirm unposted payroll for active member and retired annuitant appointments, the appointments will automatically be separated after 6 months. Now I will hand the presentation over to Mai, who will talk about how to confirm no payroll through the retirement appointment reconciliation process. Mai?
Hello again, everyone. Since we have just discussed the impacts and the importance of reporting timely, we will now discuss how to navigate CalPERS to confirm unposted payroll for members who do not have reportable compensation to report for an earned period. We will discuss two methods for confirming unposted payrolls for members. The first method will be confirming unposted payroll unposted via the payroll schedule screens. The second method will be confirming unposted payroll via the retirement appointment reconciliation screens. The first method, via the payroll schedule screens, can only be accessed by the employer submitting the payroll. So typically the COE will only be able to perform this task. To begin this task, you will log into CalPERS and navigate to your reporting tab. Select the payroll schedules on the second banner. This will take you to a new screen in which you will select view periods on the desired and approved payroll schedule. Next slide, please. This will take you to the screen shown. If you have a view button under the participants with unposted payroll column for a posted earned period, then the system has identified members who have not have payroll reported for this time and will need to be reviewed. Please note, every time a member's appointment or payroll is changed, they could potentially appear as unposted, as our system continuously validates payroll reported when an appointment is updated or payroll is altered. We advise you monitor this page continuously and prior to the report's due date to avoid any late fees. So once you click View for the earned period in review, it will bring you to the details of the earned period. Next slide, please. This screen will allow you to view and maintain the members who do not have payroll to report for this specific earned period. Once you have confirmed no compensation was earned, then you can select the radio button next to the CalPERS ID and select Confirm Unposted Payroll. You will continue this process for any earned period that has outstanding members listed as unposted. We will now move on to the second method of confirming unposted payroll for members. Next slide, please. The second method of confirming unposted payroll is via our retirement appointment reconciliation. This is available to all levels, both COE and at the district level. First, you will navigate to the reporting tab. Second, you will select the retirement appointment reconciliation located on the second banner. This will take you to the page where you can use the filters under the Search for Participants to Reconcile panel to select the desired options such as earned period dates, payroll schedule type, division, fiscal year, or other specific participation details. Once you have identified the correct filters, you will select the review link for the member you would like to review. This will take you to the next screen. Next slide, please. This page identifies all the earned period reports for a member where a full earned period is not reported. Once you have confirmed no compensation was earned during a select earned period, you will select the radio button next to the CalPERS ID and select Confirm Unposted Payroll. The benefit of confirming unposted via the ROR screens is ability to select multiple earn periods at a time for a particular member. This is helpful if there are changes to a member's account, such as overtime or non-contributory appointments. It is important to review and report payroll for all active members and retired annuitants to ensure a full earn period is reported and service is accrued timely and accurately. Next slide, please. We hope that this has been helpful. And again, it is important for the County Office of Education, the districts, and CalPERS to work together to make sure payroll is submitted timely. Here are several resources you can refer to for payroll reporting needs. We have student guides, reference guides, education classes, and as always, you can call the contact center to get in touch with a payroll analyst. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&As as we have a few payroll SMEs online that can help answer your questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Amanda Howe with Employer Education Resources. Go ahead, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. Like you said, my name is Amanda Howe. I'm an employer educator in our CalPERS Employer Education and Training Unit, or MEU. Today, I'm here to inform you about educational opportunities and resources you have access to as a business partner with CalPERS. Next slide, please. We provide free education and training opportunities for both business rules and CalPERS. Our business rules classes provide employers with a foundational understanding of the laws and rules associated with their agency's retirement or health contract. CalPERS trainings will help you to learn more about how to navigate and process transactions in CalPERS. You'll gain knowledge on how to report retirement and health enrollments, run reports, report payroll, and reconcile unposted payroll along with many other transactions. So a lot of the things we've already talked about today. These classes work together, similar to getting your driver's license. Business rules is like your driver's ed, and CalPERS is your behind-the-wheel driver's training. Together, they give you the full picture of what you need to know when working with CalPERS. Next slide. We offer both self-paced online classes and instructor-led classes to provide you with a higher level of understanding of CalPERS. Online classes are self-paced and available 24/7, using any device as long as you can log into CalPERS. We also offer instructor-led classes, both virtually and in person. With our virtual classes, you can attend live presentations with one of our employer educators like myself from your computer, regardless of where you're located. In-person classes allow you to work face-to-face with an instructor in a classroom setting at our CalPERS regional offices. For in-person CalPERS trainings, we offer hands-on interactive classes. Students receive logins to a training environment and fictitious data to follow along with the instructor and practice the scenarios. We offer resources that you can find on the CalPERS website to help you before and after you attend a class. These include our reference guides, health benefits guides, CalPERS student guides, and many more. Next slide. If you're not familiar with the resources for employers, I'll show you where they are. From the CalPERS website homepage, select the Employers tab located on the top blue bar. Next slide. Under the I Want To section on the left, select Attend Training and Events. Next slide. On the Employer Education page, you'll find a list of all CalPERS employer training and events. For today, we're focusing on CalPERS Business Rules and CalPERS. From the Classes and Workshop section, select Business Rules and CalPERS classes. On my screen, that's located in the bottom left corner. Next slide. Here you'll find a list of all the Business Rules and CalPERS classes we offer, both instructor-led and self-paced online, with class descriptions. On the right side, I want to point out a few resources. Next slide. If someone is brand new to HR or payroll, the Education and Training Classes by Business Rules document has suggested classes based on a person's job at their agency. Next slide. You can sign up for the CalPERS Employer Bulletins by selecting the Employer Bulletins link. Subscribing to our Employer Bulletin will provide you with information about CalPERS news, updates, and upcoming events. We'll send you personalized information based on your location, agency, program type, and role within your agency. The employer bulletin is also how you'll be notified of new CalPERS circular letters. Circular letters are the fastest way to receive updates on changes to laws, processes, and procedures. Next slide. The MyCalPERS student guides and resources page has links to all 27 of our MyCalPERS guides, such as our retirement enrollment and employer report student guides. These offer step-by-step processes to help you navigate and report information through MyCalPERS. Next slide. The reference and health guides are designed to help you in your business with CalPERS. From this page, you can access our reference guides, health benefits guides, and retirement resource guides, which give further details behind CalPERS laws, rules, and regulations. Next slide. Once you know which classes you'd like to take, you can enroll through MyCalPERS. From the top right of any of our website pages, select the Login to MyCalPERS button. Next slide. If you haven't logged into MyCalPERS recently, the login page may look a little different to you. There was a recent update to have one login page where you can log in as a member or as your school. From here, enter your business partner credentials and select the login button. Next slide. From your MyCalPERS homepage, select the Education Global Navigation tab. Next slide. This will bring you to the CalPERS Education Center. Next slide. From this page, you can access a link to the employer education page of the CalPERS website. There's also a link that allows you to email the employer education mailbox in case you have any questions or if you want to take advantage of our free specialized trainings. Employer educators will work with your agency's schedule to provide you MyCalPERS and business rules trainings in person or virtually. We can even come to your office. Reach out to us at this email and request to set up classes for your agency. Next slide. To enroll in a class, select the class's local navigation link or the Enroll in a Class link. They do the same thing. Next slide. You'll see a full list of class offerings. We already showed you earlier how you can enroll in a self-paced online class by selecting the Online tab. Next slide. But for this class, we're going to enroll in an instructor-led class. Choose the class you want to enroll in first and select the View Class Dates button. Next slide. That will bring up the list of upcoming class dates. You can sort this list by location and delivery method, meaning in-person or virtual. Next slide. In this case, we'll choose yesterday's class at the Sacramento Regional Office. Select the Enroll button. Next slide. Once you complete your enrollment, including adding any additional students as needed, you'll be taken to the Education Activity and History page. This can also be accessed at any time using the local navigation link. Next slide. This page displays a list of all your upcoming and past classes. For upcoming classes, you can reschedule, update your enrollment, or reschedule for a different date. You may also notice that you can find class information such as the address or virtual class link on this page. For past classes, you can print your certificate of completion for proof of attendance. In addition to our instructor-led and online classes, our educators are here to help you. Next slide. We want to assist you with making your job easier and our system more understandable. Email us for your business rules and MyCalPERS training needs, or just to get you pointed in the right direction when seeking answers. And with that, we are going to move to the Q&A section, I believe. And if there's any questions that I haven't addressed yet, please put them in the Q&A. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. This next section on the agenda, we have listed Brad as the person doing the roundtable, but we have all the presenters are still here, and we still have their managers available to answer questions. So you're not alone, Brad. You got a village behind you. So if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand, and we will go ahead and call on you and have you unmute your mic. So at this time, if there's any questions, go ahead.
And if there is no questions, I saw some questions in the QA that were interesting that other people might want to hear about. Let's see. Yeah, there was a question that I saw on here earlier. Can you hear me, Bill? Because I'm not showing up on my camera for some reason.
We can see and hear you, so you're doing good.
Okay, good. All right. So yeah, there was a question about about a PERS STRS member. And so, someone had worked at CalPERS in a non-school employer, and then they left and they must have become like a teacher, certificated member, and they chose to go to CalSTRS. But at CalSTRS, the person was PEPRA. And the question was, do they get the full benefit of using the same compensation with both systems? And the answer in that case would be no. For Classic and PEPRA, those two compensations don't mix. They would get the benefit of vesting, so they'd be vested. However, we couldn't use the CalPERS Classic pay rate or the CalSTRS PEPRA pay rate with our system. So in that type of scenario, the CalPERS calc would be the CalPERS pay rate, and the CalSTRS pay rate would be the CalSTRS pay rate. So that sounded a little convoluted, but hopefully that made sense. But yeah, anytime with reciprocity, that's how it works. We can't use PEPRA with Classic and Classic with PEPRA. And that actually goes at CalPERS as well. And I also saw several questions about certificated members as well. Ken spoke about, the regulation 574 and how we're clarifying that your pay rate for certificated members, or excuse me, for classified members should always be based on 40 hours per week. And he showed you the calculation. Now that does not apply to certificated members. For certificated members, you still base the pay rate on whatever it is that they're earning. However, there's one caveat with that, is that a certificated member is always entitled to 1 year of service credit, regardless of the amount of time they've worked per year. And so what we highly recommend with certificated members is to use the equal payments method. And for those not familiar with equal payments, it's essentially you take your earnings and you divide it by the amount of months that they worked. And then you spread out equally over those months that they worked. And then likewise, you basically match the pay rate to those earnings so that you ensure that the member gets the full year service credit. Now, that's not something that's required. You can still report members as earned. However, just be wary that they must be able to earn a year of service credit every fiscal year. We actually have a system in place too that every year we monitor that, and we will send you a letter if we encounter a certificated member that didn't earn their full year of service credit. I think that Ken and Tyler were working on the answer to that one. I saw that was in there. So hopefully it's out there. There's also a circular letter available. If you go to the CalPERS website and search on the circular letter certificated members, all the information I just gave you is available on that circular letter as well. And as far as like working after retirement goes, the question about the circular letter, Heather and I are feverishly working on that. There is some potential pending legislation that may change how 212218 is applied to school members. We were hoping to find out where that one's going to go first before we send the circular letter. But due to all of the inquiries we received about retired annuitants, we're looking at focusing now mostly on the 21229 that allows school employers to indeed hire retired annuitants if it's done in the appropriate manner, as Heather mentioned earlier. So those are just some of the fun things that I saw on the questions. I'm just curious. Oh, it looks like there's a question on here. In the example presented for pay rate full-time equivalent calculations, how would the service credit be calculated if the hourly 31.01 rate is reported? Would the employee not earn a full year if the monthly or daily rate are used as the full-time equivalent pay rate? Well, that question can be a little tricky. It really depends on the earnings and how much they actually work. If the person's truly working 40 hours per week, indeed, they would earn a full week of service every week and a full month every month. However, if they're working less than 40 every week, but the pay rate's based on 40 as it should be, the service credit will be slightly less per week. However, in majority of cases I've seen, and I'm not gonna say every case, but majority, if a school member works 11 to 12 months, regardless if they're 40 or not, say like they're 37, 38, 39 hour per week, they will end up earning a full year of service credit. You earn service credit throughout the year. It's only capped in April once you hit that full year. But say you are not quite at your full year in April and you work in May, when your payroll is reported, you will still earn service credit for May. And once you hit that 1 year amount, it will be capped. And then it starts all over July 1st. Hopefully that made sense. Oh, got another question. If the salary schedule is hourly, they should be reported with the hourly pay rate and the employer should not convert it to a monthly, correct? That is absolutely correct. We actually highly recommend that schools report as hourly for this reason. That way you don't have to go in and alter anything to accommodate the 40-hour requirement of 574 and 20636.1. Any other questions?
And you can ask your questions live if you use the raise your hand feature.
One other thing I wanted to do a plug for, and now this isn't something that's imminent, but it's going to be coming up within the next calendar year. CalPERS is going to be converted to a multi-factor authentication for employers that use CalPERS or my CalPERS, so all of you. Again, it's kind of in its infancy stages. We haven't worked out the details of that will work, but essentially think of it as, how we rolled it out for members, right? For members, if they have a My CalPERS account, when they go to log in, it'll ask them for like a cell phone number or an email address, and it will send them a code. Then they'll have to enter the code in and able to get into their account. That's all just for security reasons to ensure that our system's secure and we can't be hacked and valuable personal information is released. Rest assured, as more progress is made on that, we'll be in communication with all of our employers, including schools. There'll be a circulator available, and we will plan on presenting on that at a future SEAC meeting as more details are made available.
Okay. Well, there are no more questions. I want to thank everybody for attending and taking time out of your day. With that in mind, we will be posting this. We have been recording this presentation and it will be posted to our CalPERS website within about 5 business days.
And I got one more thing to say, Bill.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we leave, I want everyone to have a CalPERific afternoon, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the Ed Forum and at the next SEAC meeting.
Excellent. All right. So we will send out the chat. We'll email that out to everybody. The slides will be posted. And if you have any questions, you can always email the CalPERS _SEAC mailbox. All right. Have a great day. Thank you very much, everybody.